The Wells Report returns in 30 seconds. Good morning. Welcome to the Wells Report. What is the Wells Report? I know what you're thinking and asking. And here's the answer. The Wells Report is honestly reported news. We are honest and fair. We analyze the news for fact and bias. We point out both. We make commentary. That is not debate. That is opinion. And that opinion is both yours and mine, and so we debate. News analysis, commentary, and debate. This is the Wells Report. Thanks very much for joining us. My name is John David Wells. It's time now for the Wells Report front page. This for Wednesday, August 23rd, 2023. 8 GOP candidates will vie to emerge as the party's top alternative to former President Donald Trump in their first on-stage showdown tonight in Milwaukee. This reported from CNN. The 2-hour debate is set to start at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. It's hosted by Fox News Channel with hosts Bret Baier and Martha MacCallum moderating. CNN will cover the debate at CNN.com, including live updates, analysis, and fact checks. 8 candidates will be on stage. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy, former Vice President Mike Pence, former South Carolina Governor and U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations Nikki Haley, former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, South Carolina Senator Tim Scott, former Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson, and North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum. So far, there has been a little bit of controversy regarding this surrounding Vivek Ramaswamy. The Zionist Organization of America, ZOA, is lashing out at the Republican presidential candidate for saying that he would like to see U.S. military aid to Israel end by 2028. This reported by Newsmax. Ramaswamy argues it would be unnecessary after he negotiates new peace deals between the Jewish state and its Arab neighbors during his first term as president. Ramaswamy made the comments in an interview with the Washington Free Beacon that was published over the weekend. He voiced support for the Abraham Accords peace deal between Israel, the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Sudan, and Morocco negotiated during the Trump administration. Ramaswamy added he would broker expanded agreements between Israel and Saudi Arabia, Oman, Qatar, and Indonesia, and believes that he can deliver that in his first year in office. He said that if he attempts Abraham Accords 2.0, if those attempts were unsuccessful, he would favor maintaining military aid to Israel, which stands at about $3 billion per year. The National Pulse is reporting that Larry Elder will not be on tonight's GOP debate stage. Conservative commentary Larry Elder says he's suing the Republican National Committee because of it. He's been left off the stage in Milwaukee. The National Pulse reveals that the dispute surrounding his eligibility stems from a Rasmussen Reports poll. It was published Monday, August 21st, day before yesterday, which ostensibly gave Elder 1% he needed to cross the eligibility threshold. Elder says he's already surpassed the other requirements, including having over 40,000 donors across dozens of states. But the RNC said the poll cannot be factored in not because it came from Rasmussen, that's a pollster with an excellent track record, but rather because the organization which sponsored the survey, the Anti-Soros Enforce the Law PAC, is run by Eric Branstad, who has previously and recently worked with both Team Trump and Team Elder. President Trump, for his part, will be on tonight on X. He is saying that sparks will fly in his interview with Tucker Carlson. It's expected to air at 9 p.m. The former president's Truth Social post, replicated by his campaign war room of X below, That's a piece of script unnecessary. Says my interview with Tucker Carlson will be aired tonight at 9 p.m. Sparks will fly. Enjoy. The interview is timed to counter-program the Republican debate, which Team Trump had branded a vice presidential competition. In national news, President Biden and his family are huddling in secrecy this week at an exclusive home on the shore of Lake Tahoe in Nevada amid the special counsel investigation of Biden's son, Hunter. This reported by Fox News. According to the White House, the Bidens are renting the $18 million home of an environmental activist, businessman, and former Democrat presidential candidate Tom Steyer. That renting is supposedly at fair market value for a 9-day vacation following the president's trip to Hawaii to survey damage from the recent devastating wildfires. When asked if anyone was expected to pay visits to the president or his family, a White House spokesman told Fox News that there have never been any visitor logs kept at the Family First residence or the First Family residences or lodgings during travel, and they intend to continue that policy. An unnamed employee of former President Donald Trump has retracted what was called false testimony to a grand jury after changing lawyers, this according to federal prosecutors. The employee, referred to as Trump employee number 4 in court documents from special counsel Jack Smith's office, retracted statements from earlier testimony and gave information implicating Trump and others over alleged efforts to delete security footage at the former president's Mar-a-Lago estate in Florida, this being reported by Fox News. Fox News confirmed that Trump employee number 4 was Yusil Tavares, a Mar-a-Lago tech worker. Tavares is cooperating with Smith's team after switching lawyers. The court documents say Trump employee 4, quote, repeatedly denied or claimed not to recall, unquote, any contacts or conversation about security footage when they testified before a D.C. grand jury in March of 2023. CBS News reports that autopsy results call the death of the Obama chef Tafari Campbell accidental drowning. That happened in a Martha's Vineyard lake. This officials confirmed yesterday. Campbell was paddleboarding at Edgartown Great Pond the night of July 23rd when he was seen struggling in the water, according to CBS Boston reporting at the time. His cause of death was determined to be accidental drowning due to submersion in a body of water. This, according to Timothy McGurk, a spokesperson for the Massachusetts Executive Office of Public Safety and Security. Fox News reports that Internal Revenue Service investigator Gary Shapley, who came forward along with Joseph Ziegler as a whistleblower in the Hunter Biden tax probe, told Fox News special counsel David Weiss's credibility had been rendered non-existent, and that Attorney General Merrick Garland's behavior may warrant a probe on its own. Shapley said that Weiss, the Trump-appointed but Biden holdover U.S. attorney for the District of Delaware, was reportedly found to have not planned to bring charges against Hunter Biden in his investigation until Shapley and Ziegler went public about the case. Questions also rose from Weiss's reported closeness with then Delaware Attorney General Beau Biden, the president's elder, now deceased son, a decade ago. For David Weiss to continue on as special counsel in this investigation just raises so many questions for the American people, Shapley told Fox News. The Nebraska Examiner is now reporting that the next generation of COVID-19 and therapies have gotten $1.4 billion from the U.S. government. The Biden administration on yesterday, announced a $1.4 billion investment in developing the so-called next generation of COVID-19 vaccines and treatments. Health and Human Services Secretary Xavier Becerra and Assistant Secretary for Preparedness and Response Don O'Connell made the announcement, saying the funding is part of a $5 billion program they hope will get the country ahead of any future changes in COVID-19. Quote, this is an investment in expanding our country's ability to respond to future variants that we might see coming out of COVID, said Becerra. It's an investment in better protecting all of our communities, including those who are immunocompromised and who don't respond well to existing vaccines. State news this morning out of Florida, a school district has singled out Black 4th and 5th graders for an assembly regarding improving test scores. This from Fox News. A Flagler County, Florida elementary school singled out numerous black students, forced them to attend an assembly on improving their standardized test scores, as confirmed by the district's interim superintendent. Fox News 35 in Orlando reported last Friday that students in grades 4 and 5 were taken out of class to attend an assembly in Bunnell Elementary School's cafeteria, and that was learned by several parents. The students who performed well on standardized tests were reportedly brought to the front of the assembly and used as models and examples as teachers discussed the test scores and offered gift cards to restaurants as rewards for improving the other students' test scores. Out of New York, the company given a multi-million-dollar no-bid contract by the city to relocate migrants is now facing a state probe. This from the New York Post. That probe is baffling PR mavens with its move to bring in a controversial firm for crisis communications, according to the New York Post. The New York Attorney General's office has quietly opened an investigation into DocGo amid a series of complaints that migrants have allegedly been misled and mistreated by the company while being moved upstate under a $432 million uncompetitive contract that DocGo had with the city. And in an eyebrow-raising move, the COVID supplier turned migrant logistics expert also brought on Ron Terosian's firm, 5WPR, which notably repped Pornhub amid sexploitation scandals to handle all of the fallout. There have been two rare cases of mosquito-borne disease detected in Alabama. This has included one death. ABC News reports 2 cases of a rare mosquito-borne disease have been reported in Alabama, including one death, according to officials. The cases of Eastern equine encephalitis, EEE or Triple E, occurred in Spanish Fort, Alabama, 9 miles east of Mobile, the city said in a Facebook update. The Alabama Department of Public Health declined to provide any information about the patients, including name, age, or sex. International news this morning. India has landed a lunar probe near the moon's south pole. This from the New York Times. 2 visitors from India, a lander named Vikram and a rover named Pragyan, landed in the southern polar region of the moon today. It just happened, in fact. The 2 robots from a mission named Chandrayaan-3 made India the first country ever to reach that part of the lunar surface in one piece. Only the 4th country to ever land on the moon. The Indian public already takes great pride in the accomplishments of the nation's space program, which has orbited the moon and Mars, and routinely launches satellites above the Earth with fewer financial resources than other nations. But the achievement of Chandrayaan-3 may be even sweeter. Quote, "We are witnessing the rise of a new India," said Prime Minister Narendra Modi of India in a video call from South Africa to the control room in Bengaluru. Out of Russia, PBS reports that Russian President Vladimir Putin and Chinese President Xi Jinping were both absent as leaders from the BRICS group of emerging economies, starting a 3-day summit in South Africa. Putin's travel to Johannesburg was complicated by an outstanding international criminal court warrant for his arrest over the abduction of children from Ukraine. His participation in the bloc, named for a member regions Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, opened its first in-person meeting since before COVID-19. And his participation came in the form of a 17-minute pre-recorded speech. That is the Wells Report front page for this. It's Wednesday, August 23rd, 2023. Coming up on the Wells Report, stick around. We're going to talk a lot more about the GOP debate and the ensuing food fights therein, as there is just a bit of controversy, and we'll be discussing that as we continue on this Wednesday. Thanks for joining us. Back with more in just a moment.
Can your IRA stand up to the next financial crisis that our top economists are saying is at our doorsteps? By allocating a percentage of your IRA into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover, you can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns by putting your IRA back on the gold standard. Find out how to safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA, the only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Call now for your free gold and silver report. Protect your IRA today with one simple phone call and learn how to qualify for up to $10,000 in free silver. Call Genesis Gold Group, empowering faith-driven stewardship.
Call 877-655-6870. That's 877-655-6870. 877-655-6870.
Tax audits, tax liens, wage garnishments.
Every day we hear stories like this about good folks who are simply struggling to pay their bills. Each of them are living a frightening IRS tax nightmare, and they are afraid it will destroy their lives.
I'm a divorced single mom, and my ex-husband left me and the kids with a lot of unpaid bills, including unpaid taxes. I was really starting to show my stress on my kids because the IRS had sent me a letter demanding a huge payment from me. I couldn't afford it. So then the IRS was threatening to garnish my wages. I'm already living paycheck to paycheck. That would have put me over the edge financially.
It truly seemed hopeless, but then a friend at work told her to call the tax relief line.
The people at the tax relief line, they told me about something called innocent spouse relief. They worked it out so that all of the taxes from my ex are not my problem. I don't know how that works, and I don't care. All I care about is that I don't owe the IRS a dime, and they are not going to take my paycheck.
Even if it seems hopeless, you should call the number on your screen right now. There is absolutely no cost for the call or the consultation. You are under no obligation. If you are worried that the IRS could garnish your wages, seize your assets, even take your home, call us right now. The Tax Relief Line is here to help you. Now you have a knowledgeable, professional team of tax experts that are ready to negotiate with the IRS and fight for you to save you money. The Tax Relief Line's professionals have successfully negotiated thousands of cases, reducing and sometimes even eliminating the tax debt for their clients. It's very easy to get started. Simply call the number on your screen right now. You don't have to live in fear anymore. The call and the consultation are free.
Good morning. This is the Wells Report. My name is John David Wells. Telephone number is 817-379-2172. 817-379-2172. There was an incident in Michigan at a mini mart there. A suspect entered the store. His name was Cordelius, or is still Cordelius Anthony Martin. He's 35 years old. He was armed with a box cutter and tried to rob the Stone Lake Marathon's cash registry. What he neglected to keep in mind is that there was a customer there who was busily buying a six-pack of Miller Lite. Here is what happened immediately after the two met each other. as the box cutter and the Miller Lite carrying customer, well, had a small interaction. This coming to us right this minute.
How the robber announced himself at the Stone Lake Marathon here in Cassopolis about 3 weeks ago. The video shows the customer holding a six-pack of Miller Lite as the suspect, dressed in black, bursts in on July 27th. The suspect, identified as a 35-year-old Dowagiac man, pulls a mask over his face. Another angle shows the suspect approaching the store clerk. Police say he threatened the clerk with a box cutter. The customer, who has a valid concealed carry permit, told police he could not see what was in the robber's hand, but he could see the look of fear in the clerk's face. Video shows the customer pulling a handgun and firing 3 shots, then another 3, all while holding that six-pack. It appears one of those shots hit a liquor bottle. He fired the final shot several seconds later. Bullets struck the robber in the arm, the back, and the face. The customer told police the suspect fell to the floor but was crawling toward him. He held him at gunpoint until police got there. Cass County Prosecutor Victor Fitz says he's waiting for police to finish the investigation before deciding whether to file criminal charges against the customer. Obviously, there are some people who would consider the shooter a hero.
Well, in Michigan, obviously, it's clear that we do have defense of others as part of the law in Michigan, that you can defend others if they're in a situation where there's dangerous force being used against them. And certainly in this case, we'll be looking at the facts in regard to that.
Target 8 reached out to the man who fired those shots, who lives about 4 blocks from the gas station, but he declined to comment. The victim of the robbery wouldn't go on camera, but said, quote, "He saved my life." The suspect was released from the hospital yesterday and arraigned here in Cass County on 3 charges, including armed robbery. Because he's a 3-time convicted felon, he could face up to life in prison. In Cassopolis, Ken Kolker, News 8.
We want to thank WOOD TV8 for that video. And it's getting to the point where, for whatever reason,
You know why I'm
can't.
here is
You
how the
simply
robber announced
stop.
himself
Please
at the
stop.
Stone Lake
Please
Marathon.
stop. Thank you. So sorry. It's getting to the point where you can't rob a marathon anymore. Yeah, this is why we have concealed carry laws. And in most concealed carry states, there is both you are licensed to defend yourself, but defend others who might likely also have a concealed carry permit. That's the way they get around the law in acting on behalf of someone else. It seems as though the Michigan law is a lot cleaner than it is in Texas. That's the way our Texas law is written. You can defend someone else who reasonably could be thought of as having their own concealed weapons permit. In Michigan, they just say you have the right to defend others, which makes much more sense. And I'm glad that a good guy with a gun, in this case, stopped a bad guy with a box cutter. By the way, you don't have to go to Michigan for defending yourself. A man has been arrested in connection with an attempted break-in at a Dallas apartment. Ethan Rodriguez was at his apartment when somebody masquerading as a maintenance guy broke into the apartment complex. Shots were exchanged, and indeed, another good guy with a gun taking care of crime in Dallas-Fort Worth. This is the Wells Report. My name is John David Wells. Our telephone number is 817-379-2172. 817-379-2172. Coming up on the Wells Report, the GOP debate. Who's there, who's not, and who will be across the street. Next, this is the Wells Report.
Can your IRA stand up to the next financial crisis that our top economists are saying is at our doorsteps? By allocating a percentage of your IRA into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover, you can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns by putting your IRA back on the gold standard. Find out how to safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA, the only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Call now for your free gold and silver report. Protect your IRA today with one simple phone call and learn how to qualify for up to $10,000 in free silver. Call Genesis Gold Group, empowering faith-driven stewardship.
Call 877-655-6870. That's 877-655-6870. 877-655-6870.
Tax audits, tax liens, wage garnishments.
Every day we hear stories like this about good folks who are simply struggling to pay their bills. Each of them are living a frightening IRS tax nightmare, and they are afraid it will destroy their lives.
I'm a divorced single mom, and my ex-husband left me and the kids with a lot of unpaid bills, including unpaid taxes. I was really starting to show my stress on my kids because the IRS had sent me a letter demanding a huge payment from me. I couldn't afford it. So then the IRS was threatening to garnish my wages. I'm already living paycheck to paycheck. That would have put me over the edge financially.
It truly seemed hopeless, but then a friend at work told her to call the tax relief line.
The people at the tax relief line, they told me about something called innocent spouse relief. They worked it out so that all of the taxes from my ex are not my problem. I don't know how that works, and I don't care. All I care about is that I don't owe the IRS a dime, and they are not going to take my paycheck.
Even if it seems hopeless, you should call the number on your screen right now. There is absolutely no cost for the call or the consultation. You are under no obligation. If you are worried that the IRS could garnish your wages, seize your assets, even take your home, call us right now. The Tax Relief Line is here to help you. Now, you have a knowledgeable, professional team of tax experts that are ready to negotiate with the IRS and fight for you to save you money. The Tax Relief Line's professionals have successfully negotiated thousands of cases, reducing and sometimes even eliminating the tax debt for their clients. It's very easy to get started. Simply call the number on your screen right now. You don't have to live in fear anymore. The call and the consultation are free.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost.
News, analysis, commentary, and debate. This is the Wells Report. Good morning. I'm John David Wells. We bring you the news honestly and fairly. And it's something that we work really, really hard to do. I was very sure that I was on the right camera, but I wasn't. So now I am. And now it's time for more news. There will be a debate tonight. It is the first of the re-election season. This will be an eye-opener because Donald Trump will not be there. Neither will Larry Elder. And we'll talk more about that coming up in just a little bit. CNN is reporting that Donald Trump is going to skip the first 2024 Republican presidential debate. His 8 GOP rivals, on the other hand, will vie to emerge as the party's top alternative to the former president in their first onstage showdown, which will occur tonight on Fox News. The 2-hour debate is set to start at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, hosted by Fox. CNN will cover the debate at CNN.com with live updates, analysis, and fact checks. 8 candidates will be on stage: Ron DeSantis, Vivek Ramaswamy, Mike Pence, Nikki Haley, Chris Christie, Tim Scott, Asa Hutchinson, and Doug Burgum. The question is, what's going to happen with Ron DeSantis? He is the de facto front runner. He is the highest polling candidate on the stage tonight. And with Trump skipping the debate, in early voting states among likely Republican voters all year, that's where the polling is, he might wear the biggest target on his back for the debate tonight. After a 19-point re-election victory last year, DeSantis entered the GOP race to sky-high expectations. He has had trouble with his campaign, including changing his campaign manager. A strong performance tonight could steady the Florida governor's ship. I suspect that's going to happen. He already endured an embarrassing lead up to the debate when his super PAC, one that he has unusually close ties to after outsourcing a number of functions typically handled by a candidate's own campaign, in a memo advised him to hammer Vivek Ramaswamy and defend Trump if the absent former president is attacked by Chris Christie. By the way, Ron DeSantis distanced himself from that memo. That's a separate entity. I had nothing to do with it. It's not something I've read. It's not something not reflective of my strategy, said Governor DeSantis. The former president's absence from the stage offers his Republican rivals an opportunity to introduce themselves, talk about their own ideas for the future on the biggest night so far in the 2024 campaign. Others might relish a debate without Trump. At least 3 of the 8 candidates on stage, Pence, Christie, and Hutchinson, have placed criticism of the former president at the center of their campaigns. Denied an opportunity to confront Trump directly in this first debate, their strategies are major question marks. Scott and Haley, the 2 contenders from South Carolina, are both searching for their breakout moments. Tim Scott is a prolific fundraiser with an experienced campaign team. He's been in big moments before, delivering the 2021 GOP response to President Joe Biden's State of the Union address. And with the Senate's only black Republican, or as the Senate's only black Republican, he could help the party expand its growing coalition of non-white conservatives. Also, Trump skipping the debate, he is not ceding the spotlight. We'll talk more about that. He is sat in for a pre-recorded interview with Tucker Carlson, which will air tonight on X at 9 p.m. While the frontrunners have survived primary debates in recent presidential election cycles, those vying to emerge as their top party's top candidate have seen their chances effectively dashed with poor debate performances. In the 2012 Republican race, it was then Texas Governor Rick Perry's oops moment when he famously forgot the name of the 3rd federal department he wanted to eliminate. In 2016, Christie halted Rubio's momentum, that's Marco Rubio. He mocked his memorized 25-second speech about Barack Obama. There it is, everybody, Christie said when Rubio repeated effectively the very same line. In the 2020 Democrat primary, Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren ended former New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg's hopes within the span of 1 minute, delivering a withering critique that culminated in telling the audience that nominating Bloomberg to take on Trump would be substituting one arrogant billionaire for another. Already, some 2024 Republican contenders are telegraphing potential debate stage attacks on rivals. Christie knocked DeSantis in recent days. Haley released a statement Monday of this week criticizing Ramaswamy. Whether any candidate faces the sorts of unrelenting attacks that have waylaid presidential hopefuls of cycles past and now respond to those attacks, that could be an alteration to the trajectory of the GOP race. This is interesting. This is something that harkens back to the bad old days of Republicans snatching defeat out of the jaws of victory. Conservative commentary Larry Elder said he's going to sue the Republican National Committee after being left off the debate stage in Milwaukee. The National Pulse is reporting that there seems to be a dispute around the eligibility because of a Rasmussen Reports poll that was that was issued on Monday, day before yesterday, which ostensibly gave Elder the 1% he needed to cross the eligibility threshold. Elder says he already surpassed the other requirements, including having over 40,000 donors across dozens of states. But the RNC says the poll cannot be factored in, not because it came from Rasmussen. Rasmussen, famously one of the only reliable polling companies in the 2020 election cycle, is someone that does very good work. Scott Rasmussen has been on this broadcast, and I truly admire what he does. However, because the organization which sponsored the survey, an anti-Soros Enforce the Law PAC, is run by Eric Branstad, who has previously and recently worked with both Team Trump and Team Elder, the RNC said that Larry Elder would not be allowed on stage. The rules are as follows, according to the National Pulse. It recognized the RNC's rules on recognized data suggests, among other criteria, that polls, quote, must be conducted by a polling company affiliated, must not be conducted by a polling company affiliated with a candidate or candidates committee. Rasmussen, the polling company, is not affiliated with a candidate or a candidate committee, and nor is the Enforce the Law PAC. But RNC sources told the National Pulse that Branstad's now updated LinkedIn page showed him still listed as a Save America PAC Trump team advisor as late as yesterday, August 22nd. Branstad's work is also highlighted by the RNC source, who showed his other firm, Matchpoint Strategies, consulted for both Elder for America and Donald J. Trump for President 2024 Incorporated as recently as the first quarter of 2023. This is electioneering on the part of the RNC. This is a mistake. This is something that they will regret. Larry Elder is going to win this lawsuit. They'll probably settle it for reasons of politics. However, it is a bad situation for Larry Elder. This is a thoughtful guy. Used to be my colleague when I worked for Salem Media, and was nationally syndicated on their USA radio network. Larry Elder is a good guy, and he has good ideas. He has scant political experience, however. He has not been elected to anything and has run for president, this being his second time. But what he has here is clearly some, shall we say, political gerrymandering when it comes to creatively interpreting the RNC's own rules. And if it does get to court, which I doubt, the RNC is going to have some explaining to do. That is a bad thing. And I find it unnecessary. You know, I really have a problem with both the news media and the various political parties determining who is going to be able to debate simply because of rules that have nothing really to do with the voters of the United States of America. I find that to be something that needs to be discussed, and that's why we're discussing it. Vivek Ramaswamy has a couple of issues that are haunting him at this particular moment. Not so much the second is not so much haunting him as something that he is pointing out that gets back to the media trying to determine just exactly who you're going to vote for. Let's start with the ZOA. That is the Zionist Organization of America. They lashed out at the Republican presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy. That happened yesterday for saying he would like to see U.S. military aid to Israel end by 2028. Ramaswamy argues it would be unnecessary after he negotiates a new peace deal between the Jewish states and other Arab neighbors. He added he is brokering expanded agreements between Israel and Saudi Arabia, Oman, Qatar, and Indonesia. He believes he can deliver that in the first year of his presidency. He said if he attempts an Abraham Accords 2, if those attempts were unsuccessful, he would favor maintaining military aid to Israel, which stands at about $3 billion a year. This being reported by Newsmax, Ramaswamy naively asserted that his proposed Abraham Accords 2.0 with 4 non-neighboring countries would make Israel more integrated with its neighboring countries, and that Israel would be able to stand on its own 2 feet financially. ZOA President Morton Klein and Director of Research and Special Projects Lynn Burney said in a news release, even if by some miracle Indonesia, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Oman all made peace deals with Israel, Israel would continue to face existential Iranian nuclear, missile and terror threats, 200,000 Hezbollah missiles in Lebanon, many of which are precision guided, Iranian and Syrian missiles in Syria, Iranian missiles in Iraq, thousands of Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad missiles in Gaza, all pointed at the Jewish state. Quote, Israel would continue to face the ongoing huge wave of 20 terror attacks a day against Israeli civilians by terror groups in Judea, Samaria, as well as by Israeli Arabs abetted by the Palestinian Authority's nonstop incitement and pay-to-slay payments to Arab terrorists who murder Jews. In other words, Israel's defense needs are likely to increase regardless of whether or not Ramaswamy's unlikely Abraham Accords 2.0 is achieved. That being said, this is one of the reasons why people who are outside the political process, outside the body politic, have difficulty trying to enter that particular fray. What happens is that they do make statements that are against the typical political orthodoxy. There is no reason why the United States should not continue to support Israel. In fact, there is no reason why any free country in the world should not support Israel in its fight to remain free and unoppressed as the only Jewish state in the entire world. This is something the United States simply must continue. And that Vivek Ramaswamy decided that he was going to try to pull back the United States into a more isolationist pose, even including Israel. That was a foreign policy mistake. It's going to haunt him, and we will see just how much in the near future. I suspect that he's going to retract that and say, oops, pardon me. The question is, will GOP voters go along with his apology? By the way, Vivek Ramaswamy has also run across the media trying to make moves on his campaign. He accused CNN of deceptive editing in a debate on Taiwan. Let's give you the details here. As Republican presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy battled CNN host Caitlin Collins on her show day before yesterday, she aired a brief clip of him speaking about Taiwan. He said this, quote, "Guess what? We'll put a gun in every Taiwanese household, train them how to use it. That's how you make Xi Jinping think twice," said Ramaswamy in a clip taken from a speech he gave in Iowa. Quote, "Do you really think that that would be a sufficient plan to deter a Chinese invasion if it includes long-range missiles, ground troops, an aerial blockade, a naval blockade, all of the different measures here?" Ms. Collins asked Ramaswamy. And then Ramaswamy said, Caitlin, 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 5 times. Of course, it's not sufficient. You take that tiny little clip when I've articulated it, and then Collins immediately interrupted and said, you posted that clip. Ramaswamy objected that the clip Collins showed her audience was a small part of a full set of recommended policies that would help deter a Chinese invasion of Taiwan. Ramaswamy said, yes, part of this is turning Taiwan into a porcupine. I think exporting our Second Amendment is a relatively free or low-cost way to do that. But I find it laughable that you will take that clip and then put words into my mouth as though that was a sufficient deterrent. Caitlin, with due respect, that's a joke, especially considering what I've offered in that particular topic. Collins pushed back, it's not putting words in your mouth. By the way, Ramaswamy said he didn't believe that his arming of the Taiwan populace was sufficient. Quote, I never said it was sufficient. I never said it was sufficient. He told Collins that the experience of being on her show was amusing, an example of how the media works. He said, this is really funny, Caitlin. It's been very educational for me to learn how the media works. Yes, that is important. That is, no one ever said it was sufficient to deter an invasion. By the way, Taiwan is quite capable from a defensive standpoint, both with things that we know about regarding a very competent military that Taiwan fields, but also some other things that we don't talk about much, having to do with weapons capability focused on Beijing. So Ramaswamy, entering the rough and tumble world of politics and the media manipulation of that rough and tumble world, is working his way through it. Mistake here and good point there. and we will see how that works. As I said, this is all up to the voters. This is the Wells Report. Back with more in just a moment.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost. Can your IRA stand up to the next financial crisis that our top economists are saying is at our doorsteps? By allocating a percentage of your IRA into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover, you can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns by putting your IRA back on the gold standard. Find out how to safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA, the only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Call now for your free gold and silver report. Protect your IRA today with one simple phone call and learn how to qualify for up to $10,000 in free silver. Call Genesis Gold Group, empowering faith-driven stewardship.
Call 877-655-6870. That's 877-655-6870. 877-655-6870.
This is the Wells Report. Good morning. My name is John David Wells. Telephone number 817-379-2172. 817-379-2172. Want to say good morning to Jason Thomas. Eddie Jones has joined us here. Yvonne is here. Jesse is here. Mike Renwee is here. Did I say Yvonne Field? Well, if I didn't, I probably should repeat it anyway. Repeat her name anyway. Let's see what else is going on here. Jason Thomas, more COVID BS and shots. Yeah, we're going to be talking about that a little bit later on this broadcast. Yeah, apparently there's more investment in more vaccines and so on, and people are rumbling about mask mandates, social distancing, etc. The American people will ignore all of that wholesale. And it makes absolutely no sense whatsoever for the government of the United States to spend $1.4 billion on updated vaccines. The reason is because I don't believe anybody's going to take them. As you have noted, if you've been on this broadcast at any time, for any time in the recent past, I took three COVID shots. I took the original series and a booster, and then got COVID twice. I've had COVID twice after getting the vaccines. After we found out the vaccines had not been developed to stop transmission, which was routinely, not just routinely talked about by the administration, but indeed used to beat people who had not been vaccinated over the head, because the epidemic was continuing based on people who had not gotten their shots. That was wrong. Absolutely wrong. Pfizer spilled the beans when they said, oh, no, we didn't test transmissibility. We didn't do that. What do you mean you didn't do that? That was part of the reason to come up with the vaccine in the first place. So just exactly what was the vaccine? That blew the credibility of the government and Big Pharma right out of the water regarding those vaccines. Nobody's going to pay any more attention to these people. Unless, of course, there's a new version of the disease that starts killing people. Yeah, but lockdowns, masks, social distancing, easily and probably completely and forever, something that is going to remain as a part of history as opposed to part of the future. Let's spend a little bit of time talking about President Donald Trump. He's going to sit down with ex-Fox News host Tucker Carlson. He'll be doing that tonight on X. It'll happen at 9 p.m. directly across from the Republican GOP debate. The former president wrote on Truth Social his interview with Carlson, which was taped several days ago, will air at 9 p.m. The primary debate featuring 8 of Trump's GOP rivals scheduled at the same time on Fox News. Trump wrote that sparks will fly, teasing the interview, which will reportedly stream on X, the platform known as Twitter. This being reported by The Hill. Trump opted to skip the debate, citing his significant lead in many national and state-level polls over the primary candidates. The former president has for months, questioned why he should subject himself to attacks from other candidates whom he leads by a wide margin in polls of GOP voters. Instead, Donald Trump sat down with Carlson, the conservative commentator that Fox pulled off the airwaves earlier this year. The interview is not live. The decision to air it right as the debate begins is both a way for Trump to distract from what could be a pivotal moment for his rivals, to gain traction, and yet is another slight to Fox News, a network that Trump has a love-hate relationship with in recent years. Clearly, Fox News changed its editorial stance because there are noted Republican figures on the board of directors of Fox News. Most famous would be Paul Ryan, the former Speaker of the United States House. Now, the circumstance with that is as follows. Fox News is going to cover Donald Trump, and Donald Trump needs to make sure that he doesn't ruin that relationship. However, there are now alternatives. There's so many rubrics involved in this. The first one I want to point out is that Tucker Carlson is no cupcake. During an Iowa conclave, he interviewed many of the candidates and gave them a very tough time. I do not expect that Tucker Carlson is going to give a softball interview to the former president. I'm looking forward to seeing it tonight, although I have to admit that I'm in the same quandary as a lot of Republican voters, or people who usually vote Republican. I'm not a Republican voter. I'm a conservative that occasionally votes for Republicans. But what's happening is that these two things are going to be happening at the same time. The good news is I can probably watch the Trump interview with Tucker Carlson after the debate, because I'm also a newsman. I've got to cover the news. And it's really kind of hard to listen to two very in-depth conversations about important national policy at the same time. However, that being said, we'll figure it all out. It might be a late night for me because I probably won't be able to see a preview of the Trump interview before the debate starts at 9 p.m. So I very likely will be watching the debate and then watching the Trump interview at a later date. It seems to me that while this makes sense from a standpoint of, okay, maybe perhaps trying to upstage the Republican candidates, that does make sense. Although I think it works to President Trump's disadvantage. This was something else I wanted to bring up. Had the president waited until after the debate to have the conversation with Tucker Carlson, he would be able to answer the questions that were asked at the Republican debate tonight. And that would have been essentially an opportunity for him to not just answer the questions asked by the Fox moderators, but also to do a little bit of Monday morning quarterbacking. So I would have suggested that President Trump wait until after the debate for this interview, but what do I know? This is the Wells Report. My name is John David Wells. That's hour number 1. Thanks very much for being a part of our broadcast. Hour number 2 is next.
audits, tax liens, wage garnishments.
Every day we hear stories like this about good folks who are simply struggling to pay their bills. Each of them are living a frightening IRS tax nightmare, and they are afraid it will destroy their lives.
I'm a divorced single mom, and my ex-husband left me and the kids with a lot of unpaid bills, including unpaid taxes. I was really starting to show my stress on my kids because the IRS had sent me a letter demanding a huge payment from me. I couldn't afford it. So then the IRS was threatening to garnish my wages. I'm already living paycheck to paycheck. That would have put me over the edge financially.
It truly seemed hopeless, but then a friend at work told her to call the tax relief line.
The people at the tax relief line, they told me about something called innocent spouse relief. They worked it out so that all of the taxes from my ex are not my problem. I don't know how that works, and I don't care. All I care about is that I don't owe the IRS a dime, and they are not going to take my paycheck.
Even if it seems hopeless, you should call the number on your screen right now. There is absolutely no cost for the call or the consultation. You are under no obligation. If you are worried that the IRS could garnish your wages, seize your assets, even take your home, call us right now. The Tax Relief Line is here to help you. Now, you have a knowledgeable, professional team of tax experts that are ready to negotiate with the IRS and fight for you to save you money. The Tax Relief Line's professionals have successfully negotiated thousands of cases, reducing and sometimes even eliminating the tax debt for their clients. It's very easy to get started. Simply call the number on your screen right now. You don't have to live in fear anymore. The call and the consultation are free.
Do you own a timeshare? At first, maybe it seemed like a great investment, but then you realized a lot of the promises made to you were simply not true. A little later, you started receiving the monthly maintenance fees and additional associated bills they failed to mention when you signed the agreement. And now their fees keep rising. Your times to actually use the timeshare keep shrinking, and the resort has no interest in letting you out of the agreement. Your vacation dream has turned into a timeshare nightmare, an overwhelming, never-ending financial obligation that will fall on your children after you're gone. And it seems as if there is no way out. Well, here's some great news. There is a way out. The Timeshare Exit Hotline has helped hundreds of people just like you, desperate people who thought they were stuck in this burden forever. Although most professionals in the timeshare industry are legitimate, there are those that use aggressive, sometimes even misleading sales tactics to try and trick innocent people into signing their lives away. We've heard many stories of people who have been lied to and others who were kept in a room for over 10 hours, not provided water or anything to eat, pressured until they were exhausted. These people finally signed a contract just to get out of there. If you're one of the unfortunate people who have been roped into a timeshare nightmare and feel there is no way out, call the number on your screen right now. When we take your case, it means we are highly confident that we can win. We'll provide you with an affordable, one-time fixed fee and our 100% client satisfaction guarantee. Now you don't have to face arrogant, aggressive salespeople alone. We're experts in consumer protection, real estate, and contract law. Even if they bullied you into an agreement, rest assured they're not going to bully us. So don't wait. Call us right now. Even if you've tried another company that failed you, call us. Our track record of successful negotiations speaks for itself. The call is free, the information is free, and there is absolutely no obligation. A single phone call could free you of this burden. So don't wait. Call the Timeshare Exit Hotline right now. If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost.
North to south, coast to coast, around the world. This is the Wells Report. Good morning. My name is John David Wells. What do we do here? We report the news honestly and fairly. We analyze the news for fact and bias. In short, we de-propagandize the product of the mainstream media. We make commentary. That is not news. That is opinion, both yours and mine. And so we debate. News, analysis, commentary, and debate. This is the Wells Report. Thanks for joining us. Our telephone number, 817-379-2172. There is a chat room that you can join on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and Patreon. Feel free to do exactly that. And once again, thanks very much for joining us on the Wells Report. The IRS whistleblower, one of them, Internal Revenue Service investigator Gary Shapley, is making some startling statements regarding Merrick Garland, the current Attorney General of the United States, and others with regards to the investigation that was stopped, of which he was a part. He is pointing out some very important things. We have video from Fox News. Let me share that with you as we enter this particular part of the show and talk to you a little bit about the implications of what this means. This is Gary Shapley on Fox News discussing this very topic.
Gary, good to have you with us today. Thank you very much for being here. We spoke to your attorney, Mark Lytle, yesterday. He said that Mr. Weiss has to be removed from this case. Do you agree?
So for David Weiss to continue on in this as a special counsel in this investigation just raises so many questions for the American people. His credibility is just non-existent at this point. He played his cards in this investigation. He decided what was going to be charged. He was at one point, based on the information releases from this weekend, was at one point not even going to charge him. And he was the part of the investigation that allowed the investigative steps not to occur.
I mean, that was stunning, that revelation over the weekend, that he was going to do absolutely nothing in this case, not tax charge, not even the low-level tax charges or the gun charge, and that what changed the course of this was when you came forward as a whistleblower. What did you think when you learned that?
So the release this weekend was really shocking. There's, I've refrained from talking motive here, and but as more information is released, it seems to be painting the picture of what was happening behind the scenes. And this was information the Department of Justice never expected would be released, similar to Special Agent Ziegler and I coming forward. And they never anticipated that. And they're being held accountable now. And I hope that Congress continues to pursue that and push it forward to ensure that the American people will be confident that our Department of Justice is equal.
Yeah. This is from the Washington Examiner today. It says at least 7 prosecutors who worked in the Delaware U.S. Attorney's Office over the last several years of the Hunter Biden investigation appear to be Democratic donors. One of them appears to have a previously unreported personal relationship with the Biden family, at one point referring to Hunter Biden as a good friend. It was also revealed that David Weiss had at one time worked with Beau Biden. It's kind of shocking that he hasn't said that he wants to step aside from this whole thing, given all of these ties, isn't it? Are you surprised that at this point in this process, he wanted to be the special counsel on this case? And what do you think is going to happen now?
Well, what we really need is we need a special counsel to investigate this investigation, and that includes the actions of U.S. Attorney Weiss, Attorney General Garland, the statements made to Congress, the letters sent to Congress over and over again. As information comes out, it's proven that what they told the American people, what they told the Congress, was not accurate. And at the end of the day, I came forward for the American people, and I put myself at risk for the American people. And, at the end of the day, they need to be confident that this investigation is actually looked at independently and fairly.
Indeed, they do. The entire situation involving Merrick Garland and the way the DOJ has moved through this is stark, and it is improper under any circumstances. I have no idea why it is that many forces in the United States government have not seriously objected to this to the point of stopping it. David Weiss has no interest whatsoever in prosecuting any member of the Biden family. Indeed, this plea arrangement points that out in stark detail. The normal adversarial relationship in any kind of court circumstance whereby the prosecution speaks, the defense speaks, that's adversarial. But not in this case. The prosecution and defense are working together to keep Hunter Biden out of jail. Had it not been for these whistleblowers, the timing of their testimony suspicious from a political standpoint between a tripartite group of committees, both all of the House Oversight Committee, the Judiciary Committee, and the Ways and Means Committee, all coming together to hear these whistleblowers. Happened just as the Department of Justice was working to put David Weiss as a special counsel back in charge of this investigation. This cannot stand. It simply can't. And Gary Shapley is very right to point out that this has pretty serious implications if they don't do something to fix it. Shapley said that Weiss, the Trump-appointed Republican holdover, or Republican-appointed holdover, for U.S. Attorney of the District of Delaware, was reportedly found to have not planned to bring charges against Hunter Biden, as Gary Shapley just said. Questions arose from Weiss's reported closeness with Delaware Attorney General Beau Biden, the president's elder, now deceased son, over a decade ago. For David Weiss to continue on as this special counsel's investigation raises so many questions for the American people, and he is completely correct that the special prosecutor, David Weiss, has any credibility was something that was questioned in serious details by Mr. Shapley. Weiss and the Wilmington Federal Prosecutor's Office, along with the DOJ, never anticipated they'd be scrutinized for their reported machinations behind the scenes, according to Shapley. They're being held accountable now. I hope the Congress continues to push that and push it forward to ensure that the American people will be confident that our Department of Justice practices law equally for all parties. Shapley suggested scrutiny could rise all the way to the top of the DOJ with Attorney General Garland as well as Weiss. He said this: what we really need is a special counsel to investigate this investigation, and that includes the actions of the U.S. Attorney David Weiss, Attorney General Merrick Garland, statements made to Congress, letters sent to Congress over and over again as information comes out that has proven that what they told the American people, what they told the Congress, was not accurate. Congressional Republicans, other observers have claimed there have been conflicting narratives as to whether Attorney Weiss was given the ability to bring charges against Hunter Biden in Los Angeles and the District of Columbia, while other claims arose that prosecutors in both jurisdictions, Martin Estrada and Matt Graves, respectively, turned him down for prosecution of his investigation in those jurisdictions. Garland ultimately named Weiss special counsel in the case earlier this month, which some people called into question whether he had such a claimed free prosecutorial reign in the first place to bring charges outside the first state. Others, meanwhile, claim that Garland violated federal regulations in naming Weiss a sitting federal prosecutor as a special counsel. We discussed this here on the Wells Report. That is going to disappear. Attorney General Bill Barr, during the Trump administration, appointed a U.S. attorney to be in charge of the investigation into Crossfire Hurricane. John Durham was a U.S. attorney at the time. That is going to be immediately brought up if anybody questions whether David Weiss should be the prosecutor from a standpoint of working with the government. Certainly, if there is an investigation, a special counsel that looks at the investigation in toto, up to and including AG Merrick Garland's conduct within it, that's going to have to be somebody far outside of government, somebody who would be fair. And that person would be immediately the target of the body politic. And that would be very difficult. I don't know how many stiff-necked thistleheads there are out there that are attorneys that are willing to take that case. I suspect there are several. The only thing that I can say is that would mean all of this moved into the very big leagues. There are also implications regarding the political control of all of this having to do with the Biden family in the first place. And here is that point. It's very, very simple that all of this will frankly disappear unless former President Donald Trump is the nominee of the Republican Party and then becomes the president for his second term. If anybody else takes care of this, anybody else becomes the president of the United States, we'll never see this again. None of this will ever happen again. It'll just disappear. That's my personal opinion, not necessarily the news. That's absolutely not the news. But what I will tell you is that we have exactly one chance to apply accountability, not just to the Biden family, which is sad, but to also bring accountability to the DOJ, the FBI, and other members of the deep state. It's essential that this gets chased down. It's not going to be chased down unless there's somebody there that believes that should happen. The only person I can think of is one Donald John Trump. So there was an opinion column by somebody who was also a friend of the Wells Report, Greg Jarrett. He cited 28 CFR 600-3, which states a special counsel shall be selected from outside the United States government. Again, if this investigation of the investigators does happen, that will be the first thing that does happen. In other words, we'll find that stiff-necked thistlehead that wants to take this show. On Fox News, Shapley recently said the developments are another example of why he decided to go to Congress with his concerns in the first place. Quote, I came forward for the American people. I put myself at risk for the American people. And, at the end of the day, they need to be confident that this investigation actually looked independently and fairly at all the facts. I would be fully on board to assist moving forward, whether it was with Mr. Weiss or a different special counsel. He added when asked if he or Ziegler would welcome being invited back into the investigation. I doubt very sincerely that would happen because their ideas on this are known, not political ideas, but ideas of integrity-filled investigations that follow the facts wherever they lead. I'm not exactly sure. There are two kind of caveats to that. One, if indeed they have an independent investigation, then it will be very serious for the people of the United States. You don't just take on the DOJ in a special investigation without expecting there to be some rough waters. The other thing about this is just exactly how much political pressure would be put on this so-called special counsel. and whether or not that special counsel would indeed respond. It would take someone with absolute integrity to be able to move forward with an investigation of the DOJ. Is it necessary? Absolutely. It's absolutely necessary. Is it something we're going to see? It depends on who's steering the ship, doesn't it? This is the Wells Report. Telephone number 817-379-2172. What are your thoughts? We'll find those out as soon as you give us a call at that telephone number. One more time, 817-379-2172. You can also find us on the chat room as well. So please, by all means, do so. Back with more in just a moment.
Your IRA stand up to the next financial crisis that our top economists are saying is at our doorsteps? By allocating a percentage of your IRA into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover, you can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns by putting your IRA back on the gold standard. Find out how to safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA, the only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Call now for your free gold and silver report. Protect your IRA today with one simple phone call and learn how to qualify for up to $10,000 in free silver. Call Genesis Gold Group, empowering faith-driven stewardship.
Call 877-655-6870. That's 877-655-6870. 877-655-6870.
Tax audits, tax liens, wage garnishments.
Every day we hear stories like this about good folks who are simply struggling to pay their bills. Each of them are living a frightening IRS tax nightmare, and they are afraid it will destroy their lives.
I'm a divorced single mom, and my ex-husband left me and the kids with a lot of unpaid bills, including unpaid taxes. I was really starting to show my stress on my kids because the IRS had sent me a letter demanding a huge payment from me. I couldn't afford it. So then the IRS was threatening to garnish my wages. I'm already living paycheck to paycheck. That would have put me over the edge financially.
It truly seemed hopeless, but then a friend at work told her to call the tax relief line.
The people at the tax relief line, they told me about something called innocent spouse relief. They worked it out so that all of the taxes from my ex are not my problem. I don't know how that works, and I don't care. All I care about is that I don't owe the IRS a dime, and they are not going to take my paycheck.
Even if it seems hopeless, you should call the number on your screen right now. There is absolutely no cost for the call or the consultation. You are under no obligation. If you are worried that the IRS could garnish your wages, seize your assets, even take your home, call us right now. The Tax Relief Line is here to help you. Now, you have a knowledgeable, professional team of tax experts that are ready to negotiate with the IRS and fight for you to save you money. The Tax Relief Line's professionals have successfully negotiated thousands of cases, reducing and sometimes even eliminating the tax debt for their clients. It's very easy to get started. Simply call the number on your screen right now. You don't have to live in fear anymore. The call and the consultation are free.
Good morning. This is the Wells Report. John David Wells at your service. Many government officials went to Maui to discuss the tragedy and to see firsthand just exactly what happened in Lahaina, which no longer exists, and also try to disperse monies and aid. Where did they stay? Where are they actually staying from a standpoint of accommodations? Jesse Waters, last night on Fox News, spent some time talking about it.
Obtained by the Daily Mail, FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, the team that's supposed to be digging through the ashes and delivering aid, has turned the tragedy into a junket. FEMA booked themselves into 5-star luxury Hawaiian resorts, relaxing at the cocktail bar, knocking back drinks, 45 minutes away from Lahaina, the city consumed by an inferno. They're shacking up at the Maui Four Seasons, beachfront, of course. Rooms there are $1,000 a night. The presidential suite goes for $29,000 a night. We sure hope they're not staying there. Hopefully, FEMA officials aren't getting spa treatments like the $225 one at the Lomi Mohala Massage. We pray they're not poolside sipping Laurent Perrier champagne. Since there's nothing to celebrate, the Mai Tai at the Maui Four Seasons is $32, gratuity not included. Now, we have boots on the ground there on the island. Spies tell us that they may have seen a FEMA foursome enjoying 18 holes in the Robert Trent Jones II design course overlooking the Pacific. It's not just the Four Seasons. FEMA agents are also posting up at the Fairmont Kea Lani in Maui, where rooms range there from $1,300 to $4,500 a night. Scuba, surf, and paddle lessons are not complimentary. Neither are the Sunset Pilates classes. Do you have to stay limber to hold the leash of your cadaver dog? I don't know. FEMA agents are also crashing at the Grand Wailea Astoria, 5 stars, of course, where hula, ukulele, and snorkel lessons set you back. But the Mohalu Healing Garden and Beauty Lab, oh, it's a must. Are these the hotels Biden's FEMA officials should be staying in, gallivanting around in and drinking in, as search and rescue operations are underway with 500 kids still missing? Now, FEMA has confirmed that they're staying at these hotels, but they won't tell us how much they're paying. They mumbled something about a government rate, and they appeared vague and defensive. Biden's giving Maui fire victims $700, while his FEMA officials sleep at luxury resorts that cost more than that per night. Were these the only hotels that were available? I mean, we understand it's a small island and it's chaotic, but the 5-star resorts 45 minutes away weren't the only options. FEMA officials could stay at the Days Inn, where you could get an oceanfront view for $250 a night. We confirmed it. Rooms are still available there. Days Inn isn't a bad spot. It doesn't have the aromatherapy sessions that the Four Seasons offered, but logistically and financially, it seems to make sense. If FEMA wanted to respect the American taxpayer as well as the Hawaiian people, Expedia shows plenty of Airbnbs for less than $200 a night.
This is unfortunate. It is ridiculous. And indeed, Jesse Waters on Jesse Waters Primetime last night ridiculed it, as he well should have. Bungling U.S. government bureaucrats dispatched to the Maui disaster zone are shacked up in hotel rooms over $1,000 a night. I have been on many government rate conclaves, and normally we stay at the Days Inn, strangely. Although last time I did get an opportunity to stay in the Hilton. Our family has a membership with Hilton, and those rooms are just fine. And I think I was paying somewhere around $113 a night. Actually, I wasn't paying for it. It was paid for by the organization that brought me out. That being said, $113 is a heck of a lot less expensive than $1,300 a night. One thing to Jesse Waters producers, the word is Wailea, in case you're wondering. This is the Wells Report. Back in a moment.
Can your IRA stand up to the next financial crisis that our top economists are saying is at our doorsteps? By allocating a percentage of your IRA into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover, you can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns by putting your IRA back on the gold standard. Find out how to safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA, the only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Call now for your free gold and silver report. Protect your IRA today with one simple phone call and learn how to qualify for up to $10,000 in free silver. Call Genesis Gold Group, empowering faith-driven stewardship.
Call 877-655-6870. That's 877-655-6870. 877-655-6870.
Tax audits, tax liens, wage garnishments.
Every day we hear stories like this about good folks who are simply struggling to pay their bills. Each of them are living a frightening IRS tax nightmare, and they are afraid it will destroy their lives.
I'm a divorced single mom, and my ex-husband left me and the kids with a lot of unpaid bills, including unpaid taxes. I was really starting to show my stress on my kids because the IRS had sent me a letter demanding a huge payment from me. I couldn't afford it. So then the IRS was threatening to garnish my wages. I'm already living paycheck to paycheck. That would have put me over the edge financially.
It truly seemed hopeless, but then a friend at work told her to call the tax relief line.
The people at the tax relief line, they told me about something called innocent spouse relief. They worked it out so that all of the taxes from my ex are not my problem. I don't know how that works, and I don't care. All I care about is that I don't owe the IRS a dime, and they are not going to take my paycheck.
Even if it seems hopeless, you should call the number on your screen right now. There is absolutely no cost for the call or the consultation. You are under no obligation. If you are worried that the IRS could garnish your wages, seize your assets, even take your home, call us right now. The Tax Relief Line is here to help you. Now, you have a knowledgeable, professional team of tax experts that are ready to negotiate with the IRS and fight for you to save you money. The Tax Relief Line's professionals have successfully negotiated thousands of cases, reducing and sometimes even eliminating the tax debt for their clients. It's very easy to get started. Simply call the number on your screen right now. You don't have to live in fear anymore. The call and the consultation are free.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost.
News, analysis, commentary, and debate. This is the Wells Report. Significant news in Trump world. An unnamed employee of former President Donald Trump has retracted what was called false testimony to a grand jury. This after this particular person changed lawyers. This report from Fox News, the employee referred to as Trump Employee 4 in court documents from special counsel Jack Smith's office retracted statements from earlier testimony and gave information implicating Trump and others over alleged efforts to delete security footage at the former president's Mar-a-Lago estate in Florida. Fox News Digital has confirmed that Trump employee number 4 is Yuscil Tavares. He is a Mar-a-Lago tech worker. Tavares is cooperating with Smith's team after switching lawyers. The court documents say Trump employee number 4 repeatedly denied or claimed not to recall any contacts or conversations about security footage when they testified before a D.C. grand jury in March of 2023. But in July, after being advised he was a target of the investigation, that his lawyer might have a conflict of interest because of his representation of others in the probe, the witness received a new attorney from the Federal Defender's Office and provided the Justice Department with information that helped form the basis of the revised indictment against President Trump, his valet, Walt Nauta, and a third defendant, Carlos de Oliveira, according to court filings. The new information from the witness was presented to prosecutors weeks before Smith secured an updated indictment accusing Trump and 2 others in a plot to delete surveillance video at the Florida property. The special counsel indicates the D.C.-based federal grand jury in the document case has ended. The prosecutors described the witness interaction in a filing that seeks a hearing in Florida about potential conflicts of interest involving the defense lawyer, Stanley Woodward, who also represents Nauta. They said that encounter helps explain why they continued to use a grand jury in Washington to investigate potential false statements in the district, even after they had secured an indictment in Florida. The target letter to Trump employee 4 crystallized a conflict of interest arising from Mr. Woodward's concurrent representation of Trump employee 4 and Nauta, according to prosecutors. They added, quote, advising Trump employee 4 to correct his sworn testimony would result in testimony incriminating Mr. Woodward's other client, Nauta, but permitting Trump employee 4's false testimony to stand uncorrected would leave Trump employee 4 exposed to criminal charges for perjury. Woodward declined to comment when reached by Fox News. A trial date has been set for May 20th, 2024 in the classified documents case. Trump has pled not guilty and has denied any wrongdoing. Trump is facing yet another prosecution by Smith over efforts to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election, as well as a criminal case in Georgia over similar charges and another in New York in connection with hush money payments to a porn actor. So, there are a few things in this that we need to keep in mind. So Yuscil Tavares, who is Trump employee number 4, a Mar-a-Lago tech worker, got a new lawyer. Who provided that lawyer? Why, the federal government provided that lawyer. Why did they change lawyers? Well, because there was a lawyer representing Walt Nauta, and in order to finagle, if you wish, that's probably a bad term, in order to, shall we say, structure the prosecution, what happened is that since Tavares probably could not afford a lawyer on his own, certainly not one high power enough to be able to defend him in a federal case, they provided him one. What are the motives of that lawyer, speaking of conflict of interest? And of course, the DOJ, the special counsel, had to choose between Walt Nauta and Mr. Tavares as to which of these two people were more likely to provide testimony, in this case of Tavares, new testimony regarding the security tapes or security recordings in Mar-a-Lago. And apparently Jack Smith chose Mr. Tavares, who is cooperating. In other words, they got one of the Trump circle to flip. Does that seem suspicious to anybody else but me? Not that that's not done. It is. You cast a wide net. You put serious pressure on the people aside from the principle that you're actually going after, and you see if they will change their testimony. Well, which is which? The sworn testimony that Tavares gave to the original grand jury, or the sworn testimony given to the same grand jury after he changed lawyers? The threat of facing criminal charges should he not play ball with Jack Smith reeks of extortion to me. It kind of bugs me, actually. With that being said, there are some other caveats we have to keep in mind. Number one, were those security videos, were they subpoenaed by the special counsel? At this particular moment, I can't determine whether that was the case. If indeed they were subpoenaed, two things very likely would have happened. There would be a very serious problem for Donald Trump in that particular situation. But also, the other aspect of that is that indeed, if those particular tapes were destroyed, that could give some pretty serious credence to obstruction of justice. That's if there's a subpoena. If there is no subpoena, then there's no reason for Donald Trump to do anything except what he chooses with his videos. Frankly, I would have just left him alone. Why bother? By all means, have the videos. Go right ahead. Absolutely. Anything you need. Because I don't think this case is going to stand. I just don't. But the cases arising from the way this was handled, those might have a little bit of steam behind them. Because once you get somebody ensnared in a trap, any move they make can be charged again under a different set of court documents. So in other words, you put somebody in a trap, and then you keep track of every move they make to see if you can add additional charges. And once again, is that law enforcement on the up and up? Well, that's up to you. I can see problems with it, but we will see. If indeed there was no subpoena for these videos, they belong to President Trump. And so he can do with them as he chooses. If indeed there was a subpoena, I don't think President Trump would have done anything. He would have just left it alone because that was clearly a trap. But these particular videos really are nothing different than, say, for example, a reasonable prosecutor who would decline to prosecute Hillary Clinton for destroying 33,000 emails on a rogue server after they were subpoenaed. That would be somewhat different. I don't believe a jury in Florida would have any problems whatsoever. I also admire the creative embroidery having to do with, well, this is why we kept this grand jury in Washington, D.C. Yeah, we did that because there were too many close ties with too many legal people down in Florida. That is baloney. It's absolute baloney. They did that because they had a grand jury impaneled in Washington, D.C., where they could expect the result that they were aiming for in the first place. And so that's why they did that. Judge Eileen Cannon is going to see right through that. Whether she admits it or not, I don't have any idea. Certainly, if there is no subpoena, then I could see those security tapes or the dissolution of them as thrown out of court because it has nothing to do with the case. Probably wouldn't have much to do with the case in the first place. Why would President Trump seek to destroy those videos? I have no idea. Why would you do that? Hell, they don't show anything. They don't show anything at all. Moving boxes, again, those boxes, if you subpoena what's in the boxes, moving them around has nothing to do with anything unless you're trying to hide them. You're not going to be able to move boxes from one place in Mar-a-Lago to another place in Mar-a-Lago without them being found. Even if they moved them off site. Once again, we go right back to President Biden and the fact that he had boxes and boxes of classified documents right beside his Corvette in his garage. Right beside his Corvette in his garage. And if what we take from his trip to Maui, where he had this kitchen fire, my goodness gracious, it took 20 minutes to extinguish. Well, that's probably because the fire department showed up, saw the fire, put it out, and probably the 10 minutes before and the 7 or 8 minutes before they actually put the fire out and the few minutes afterwards to stow their equipment, probably added up to 20 minutes. In other words, it was a very small fire. But what he said is that we almost lost our house. Well, you would have lost all those documents right beside your Corvette, wouldn't you? And then, of course, you have to point out that Vice President Biden did not have the protection for his documents that President Donald Trump had. And all of that comes down to the Presidential Records Act and common practice by the United States government regarding presidential papers. I don't see this case going very far. I just don't. And if this one goes, I'm pretty sure the rest of them will go in pretty quick fashion. And at the end of all of this, it would be at least available for the conjecture that all this is doing is trying to make Donald Trump's 2024 campaign exceedingly difficult to undertake. In other words, trying to obstruct this president from effectively campaigning for re-election in 2024. These people in the deep state, and we have to count the DOJ, the FBI, CIA, NSA, DHS, all of these people have a vested interest in making sure that Donald Trump does not become the president of the United States in an inauguration in 2025, because he will lay waste to what is turned out to be and exposed by President Trump's work as president of the United States to be as corrupt as any government cabal, any political machine this nation has ever seen. What would be left if he does not succeed? Well, if they got away with it this time, they would be empowered to get away with it any time. If indeed Donald Trump wins and divests the deep state of its power, then we would have a few moments of uncertainty, but possibly a better country. These are things that have to be considered. Further, the sullying of Donald Trump is something that the people of the United States are going to have to determine has any kind of reality or not. That decision would be made in the privacy of their own thoughts and in the execution of ballots in the voting booth, which is where this case actually should be tried. Speaking of presidents that are working their way through difficulties legally, President Biden and his family are in Lake Tahoe. They are huddling in secrecy, according to Fox News, at an exclusive home on the shores of Lake Tahoe amid the special counsel investigation of Hunter Biden. It's unclear whether the Bidens will receive any visitors during their stay. They don't keep visitor logs, and that's essentially where they choose to stand. Misdemeanor tax charges against Hunter were dismissed by a federal judge in Delaware last week. That's because they're redoing the case entirely. That plea deal that they had, blown up by the judge in that particular proceeding. After the plea deal fell apart, Biden pled not guilty as federal prosecutors confirmed he's still under federal investigation. He was expected to plead guilty to the 2 misdemeanor tax counts of willful failure to pay federal income tax as part of the plea deal to avoid jail time on a felony gun charge. All of that got tossed. So the Biden family in Lake Tahoe, in private, what are they discussing? I am very sure they are discussing the infirm patriarch of their family. I noticed a couple of weeks ago that there was serious distance between the president and anything public, vacation after vacation after vacation. Carefully handled press availability, and then press availability completely denied, with the president some 100 yards away from the press. That didn't stop the president from turning around when asked about the Maui fires and returning the answer of no comment. I would suspect the family is trying to figure out what the next move is. I would expect that the pressure from the House Oversight Committee, the Judiciary Committee, the Ways and Means Committee is intensifying on that family. And this slow roll toward a decision about Joe Biden as the Democrat nominee in 2024 is probably coming to a point of inflection, as they say, which is the wrong word. But that being said, it's the one they use. They have a decision to make. So does the Democrat Party. So do the people of the United States. They've made their viewpoints clear. majorities of both Democrats and Republicans saying that Joe Biden should step aside. This is something that we're going to see pretty close to coming to a head in the coming weeks. I'm not going to say 3 or 4 weeks, but I bet you it happens in 3 or 4 weeks. We will see. This is the Wells Report for Wednesday, the 23rd day of August, year of our Lord, 2023. I am John David Wells. You can join us with your viewpoints on the chat room. You can find that on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Patreon, and Rumble. You can also call me 817-379-2172. 817-379-2172. This is the Wells Report. Back with more in just a moment.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost. Can your IRA stand up to the next financial crisis that our top economists are saying is at our doorsteps? By allocating a percentage of your IRA into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover, you can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns by putting your IRA back on the gold standard. Find out how to safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA, the only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Call now for your free gold and silver report. Protect your IRA today with one simple phone call and learn how to qualify for up to $10,000 in free silver. Call Genesis Gold Group, empowering faith-driven stewardship.
Call 877-655-6870. That's 877-655-6870. 877-655-6870.
This is the Wells Report. My name is John David Wells. Thank you very much for joining us. Our telephone number is 817-379-2172. As you know, I was raised in a NASA household. My dad was a contractor for the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, and we got to play space. It was a lot of fun. Well, I am very proud of the state of India this morning. They landed a probe on the South Pole, near the South Pole of the moon this morning. The lander is named Vikram. The rover is named Pragyan. They landed in the southern polar region of the moon this morning, this being reported by the New York Times. The two robots from a mission named Chandrayaan 3 made India the first country to ever reach that particular part of the lunar surface, and the fourth country to put objects, whether manned or unmanned, on the moon. There is some video of this. It is incredibly entertaining, and you're going to see why here in just a couple of seconds. It's incredibly oh, goodness gracious. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, this is great. Hang on just a moment as I get this. Yeah, okay. This will be an interesting little comment in the post-production meeting today. So here is the video from the landing of Vikram and Pragyan earlier today.
He is critically looking at the visuals.
This minister, by the way, is...
जी हाँ, आप अपनी स्क्रीन पे देख सकते हैं कि हम लैंडर मॉड्यूल.
People are applauding. Let us all wait to hear from the Secretary, Department of Space and Chairman ISRO, Shri S. Somnath.
आदरणीय प्रधानमंत्री जी, नमस्कार. Sir, we have achieved soft landing on the moon. India is on the moon.
That is just so wonderful. It's so good to see. And I don't know whether you noticed it or not, but when they were announcing the successful landing of the space probe, the first word out of the announcer's mouth was yeehaw. So there's obviously a Texas connection. This is a great achievement on the part... Oh, excuse me. I'm getting some breaking news. Oh, well, that's terrible. Apparently, it has just been announced that the probe that you saw landing just moments ago has been eaten by Pac-Man. Okay, that's not real. That was obviously an animation of the probe landing on the moon, and that is, but I was just playing. Pardon? Oh, well, maybe I should go on camera 3. Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, thank you. That was from my executive producer, who is now feeding audio that I spoke moments ago down my headphones. But anyway, that being said, it is a great achievement. They are landing on the south pole of the moon because there might be water ice there. And that water ice is essential to further exploration of the moon. Because if we put people on that moon, we're going to have some water for all kinds of different reasons, not the least of which is to slake the thirst of the astronauts living there. And so that being said, you have to land in a place where there's ice. Many of us had no idea that there would be ice on the moon in the first place. This was not something that the moonshots actually went to discover or even investigate. The thing about it is that in the places where America landed on the moon, these were spots that were within the constant light of the sun, and the water would have then evaporated away. But on the polar regions, that is not evident. And since there is water virtually everywhere in the Earth system involving the moon and so on, and other places, they even believe that there's water on Mars. This is essential to whatever kind of expeditions might occur. In fact, the Orion missions, due to orbit the moon next year and perhaps land in 2025, they are creating a mission profile that makes it possible for the lander not just to go on a flat plane toward the moon and orbit essentially in the way you can see the moon, but actually alter the trajectory so that the lander is on a polar orbit to be able to land in places just like this, where there would indeed be water ice. So it's a proud day for India, even though their space probe was eaten by Pac-Man. Also, by the way, there was another statement from the India Space Agency that thanked Best Buy in New Delhi for allowing them to use their television department as a control room. Okay, that's not true either. I'm just teasing. I think it's an amazing achievement for India, and I'm so glad that so many other countries are beginning to access the riches surrounding us, both on the moon and in the solar system. The executive producer of The Wells Report is Dirk Steele. The publicist associate producer is Jube Dankworth. Find her at netmediaconsultants.com. My name is John David Wells. You've been watching The Wells Report. If you find value in this show, please do share it with your friends. Have yourself a great day. See you again tomorrow morning. And there we go. So, my friends, I hope you noticed that there was less jitter. Arthur Davenport, good to have you back. Good to have you here. Let's see, Alicia, thanks very much for being here. Gary Olivier, thank you so much for your time. Let's see what else. Mike Renwee, of course. Yvonne, thank you so much. God bless all of you for being with us today, and I will see you again tomorrow morning for another edition of this.